Well, just how big of a role has COVID-19 pandemic had when it comes to consumer debt woes across the province? A recent study has taken a closer look at what's driving consumer debt across BC. And joining us now is Blair Manton from Sands and Associates with more details from that report. Good morning, Blair. Great to see you.
Oh, good morning, Jason. Nice to be with you.
So this report polled over 1,800 consumers who declared bankruptcy or consolidated debt. What were some of the key reasons for taking on debt that consumers reported in that study?
Well, what was really interesting, Jason, is that the causes didn't change that much year over year. About 20% of people, they blamed it on themselves. They said, the reason why I had to file a bankruptcy or file a consumer proposal was just an overextension of credit. I got too much credit, sometimes too young, and then I just didn't manage it appropriately. But for the balance, about 80% of people, it was that some life event happened. So for about 14% of people, it was job related. They just either lost their job or got laid off or something along those lines. Illness, injury, or health-related problems was a similar amount. Some people said it was the cost of living outpacing their income that really caused them to have an issue. And then the last major cause was marital or relationship breakdown. Because obviously if a relationship is breaking down, there can be legal costs, there can be costs to reestablish two households instead of one. What was also interesting this year, which was a trend that's really continued, is very few people said that it was mortgage overextension, it was the fact that they're spending too much as a homeowner. In fact, 94% of the people who filed bankruptcy or a consumer proposal were not homeowners at all. They were either renting, roommates, living with parents. So it's really not a homeowner issue. It's folks who don't have a whole lot of assets, and oftentimes it's cost of living or it's a life event that puts people over the edge.
And if you're like Vancouver's Evander Kane, that's a different type of bankruptcy because he just overspent a lot.
Well, it's interesting too, and it doesn't matter how much money you make. It is possible to spend every dollar, and I have people in my office who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and people who are on social assistance, and they all can need help at certain points in their life. But yeah, $50 million of lifetime earnings, I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, that's a different one. Well, how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted consumers seeking professional debt help so far?
Yeah, so we did this survey. It finished in about October, November of this year. So it was the early stages of the pandemic. But what was interesting is of those who had filed the bankruptcy or a proposal since the lockdown in March, over half said that the pandemic was a key contributing factor. And what they said is about 60% of people who said it was a contributing factor said the big issue was loss of income. And that's no surprise. Many businesses had to shut down, went into lockdown. And even though the government replaced income, it often wasn't enough. About 20% of people said they had to use credit to make up for lost income. And what was also interesting is about 4%, and we expect this to climb, but about 4% said, I had no debt before this pandemic, and it hit me so hard that I actually had to file a consumer proposal or a bankruptcy. What we also found was that the filing helped people to manage through the pandemic. So people said, I'm in a much better situation now that I've dealt with my debt, I don't have the creditors calling me, and I can focus on just getting through this very difficult period.
Finally, Blair, what would you recommend for those concerned about their personal debt at this time? And when are we in trouble? Are we just making minimum payments? Or is it $3,000 in your credit card? Is it $10,000 in your line of credit? When should someone be worried that their debt is just too much?
Yeah, in terms of the limit, it's different for individuals. If you're making $2,000 a month, a $10,000 credit card bill can seem insurmountable. If you're making $10,000 a month, well, then, that might be, a month of overspending. You can get that back on track. You hit it right on the head there, Jason, in that it's only making minimum payments is when a lot of people start to figure out. They look at the credit card bill and they say, I'm going to be in debt for 150 years. I've got to do something different. I think there's two takeaways for people to keep in mind here. One is that you're not alone. So there are many, many people facing difficult financial situations right now. And two is that there is help available. So any licensed insolvency trustee, like ourselves at Sands and Associates, will meet with you for free. We'll explain to you all of your options. The government created some very reasonable consumer protection legislation that can help you restructure your debt, get back to zero, and hopefully help you weather this pandemic a little bit better and easier with less stress.
Popular resolution for the new year to bring down that debt. Blair Manton, thank you so much. Great insight this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.